It was always like passive learning and reading the map correctly. Because again, there's no instructions for how to be the best CTO, right? There's like the superficial things, right? Things need to be shipped at a great timing, and engineering teams should be effective, and technology should be picked in a good way, right? Some common sense and some great way to trial and triage different options, and to enable the business not for now but for the long term, right?
Welcome to 20-Minute Leaders. Just sit back, relax, and learn from the leaders of today. It's a journey. Each one is different, unique, inspiring. Let's get started. This episode is powered by J Ventures, a community-driven VC fund in Silicon Valley, in partnership with Lomitech, and sponsored by Homeward Ventures, Hippo Insurance, Upwest, Hillel at Stanford, Leap, and Birthright Excel. Hello and welcome to 20-Minute Leaders. Meet Dotan Nahum, CEO and founder of Spectral. Dotan is an experienced multidisciplinary leader in tech, a 4 times published author, and an avid open source contributor. He is the CEO and founder at Spectral, a devsecops startup, and previously was CTO at HiredScore, Klarna TLV, and Conduit. With a solid background in hacking, reverse engineering, and software engineering, Dotan has spent years bridging the gap between developers, security, and productivity from a developer's point of view. Dotan Nahum, co-founder and CEO of Spectral. How are you today?
Great. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much for being here. I love cybersecurity. I love software development. I love the integration of the two. And it's such an incredible time, in not just the tech ecosystem, but in the Israeli ecosystem in general. And I'm excited to pick your brain on your own journey and what you're doing with Spectral and how you're observing it. So thank you for being here. Tell me a little bit about yourself. You've done such incredible things throughout your career with some incredible companies. Who are you, Dotan?
Sure. I don't know. Like, it's a bit strange, testifying on yourself, right? So, but yeah, I mean, on the surface, I've been mainly doing technical roles, in the industry, latest, I think, 15 years, something like that. Mostly CTO roles. And in terms of my interest, it was always around empowering developers and, trying to build, I would say, developer effectiveness tools. I mean, today, there's so many other names for that. It's like automation and CI/CD and all these things, and IT ops, and basically what I was doing throughout my career is just building tools for my fellow teammates whenever I was. That's right. Basically who I am. Yeah.
Now, having held leadership roles, whether it be chief technology officer or lead architect or et cetera, how, in a few sentences, how do you perceive your leadership in tech in your eyes?
Yeah, actually, it's I think leadership in tech is very complex. There's so many books written about being a CEO, right? And so many books written about how to be a VP sales or VP marketing. But actually, I think there's just one about how to be a CTO. And that one was amazing to see. I don't remember the name of the author, but I can send it offline. I think it was out like last year, right? And there's no actual, I would say, career ladder. There's no boilerplate for someone saying, I want to be a CTO one day, and kind of telling you these are the milestones that you need to go throughout your career, and this is the things you should pay attention to, and
right.
This is how you can get there in the best shape that you can. Right? There's nothing like that.
You mentioned the word complex, and I think that's a really good way of describing tech leadership. Why is it complex in your opinion?
So yeah, I mean, so right now I'm in a CEO role, so I kind of jump towards the other side, kind of being a technical CEO. But For me, it just meant when I was a CTO, I really wanted to understand all of the sides of the organizations, right? So when I was working with my CEOs, I would take extra care to understand their world, right? From the day to day to goal setting to understanding their frustrations and kind of being in their shoes to be able to do my job in the best way. It was always like passive learning and reading the map correctly. Because again, there's no instructions for how to be the best CTO, right? There's like the superficial things, right? Things need to be shipped at a great timing, and engineering teams should be effective, and technology should be picked in a good way, right? Some common sense and some great way to trial and triage different options, and to enable the business not for now but for the long term, right? So many things that you learn on the job, and it's such a shame that you have to learn this on the job, and by basically failing so many times. But really, there's so many theory here that if I would go and write a book about it, I think I have a full book to fill, just no time to write that book. But there's actual like lessons that everyone are learning in parallel, and basically they're all the same lessons, and it's a pity that everyone have to fail the exact same way in these kind of roles.
Right.
Yeah.
I can completely resonate with what you're saying. I'll go with the same transition that you did in your career. Today, you're in the chief executive role, which means that not just looking technically, but you're also responsible for leading the company's vision strategically, financially, human resources, everything that comes into play with that. Still in a very technical field. Spectral with Spectral looking at developers and source code and how do you do security based on that. Where did the idea for Spectral come from?
Yeah. So it's actually not an idea as much as it was a pain,
Right.
like a growing pain, and
Yeah.
the the sheer uh, pain of it. And if you think about it, I was in CTO roles mostly, leading engineers, building products, building new technologies, and this obviously the security aspect was always there. And so what I saw is that this fantastic thing is happening where you have really, I think the last 3 to 4 years is the piece in history that we as engineers have had so many options, right? So many great options. And actually, I kind of lived through history long enough to remember each and every period. This is by far the best era to live in as a developer,
I'm
because
sure.
you
Yeah.
can choose your database, you can choose your programming language, and all programming languages are great. This is an amazing thing because mostly throughout my career, we had this one or two programming languages that were not good, but they were what you wanted to use. And the great ones always had disadvantages, always lack of tooling, lack of documentation, lack of something. And today, everything is just great. I mean, you can't go wrong. And so when you think about it, everything is just great. And every option you go for, you won't go wrong. And so many options. So, why not use everything, right? And so when options becomes vast and things kind of get complex because now you need to learn everything, right? So let's say you want to use MongoDB in this project and then Postgres on that project, maybe CockroachDB, which is completely different in other project, right? And you have the option. I mean, you can move fast. You can actually pick the right technology for the problem and then not waste time and then just ship
Right.
things so much faster, right? So what's the
So
downside,
what is the pain point? Yeah. What is the downside exactly?
right? And this is this is a question left unanswered because if just take a view at any kind of startup, you'll see there's no downside. Everyone are just picking technologies, using them, shipping to production, just having a blast. How is it possible that there's no downside? right? How is it possible? So it's not possible. And what I saw is that with all these choices comes various types of mistakes, and they're often mistakes. And what I was caring for is the type of mistakes that eventually bring a company down. So a specific set of mistakes that cause a security breach, data breach of any kind, right? And it can be a simple mistake. Let's say we just mentioned cockroach DB. I just picked it off the top of my head, right? Uh, do you know how to secure it properly as an engineer which is just playing with it? I guess mostly no,
Probably
because you're
not.
just, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
you're just filling out the system to see how you can, what's the, like, what is it? A document DB? Is it a graph DB? You want to find out. So you just build some project. And sooner or later, you actually are finished. Like, this is, the
Right.
product is done. Wow, Cockroach DB is so great. Let's ship it to production,
Right.
right? And then I'm saying, hey, did we forget something through this whole amazing process? And the answer is mostly yes. Go back to
I think that what
documentation,
you're,
right?
regarding exactly what you're saying, I'm sorry to interject, but it's interesting because, what you're talking about is perfectly situated with the alternative, with the trend where you're mentioning it's not just that there's a surplus of potential technologies to use, but the way that these technologies are being brought to the world with the new ways of documentation and the different API systems, they're actually engaging developers to use them from day zero, and on day 5 already have them in production. And
Correct.
obviously that is also the business model of all of these softwares, right? The idea is that you don't just use it as a free trial, but you take it to production. And so there's a dissonance here between the ability for the developer and the companies to really own what they're doing and have full diligence on the security
Correct.
of it versus what they're actually doing.
Right. And these projects are amazing. I mean, I wouldn't go back in time for a second. I mean, these
Mm-hmm.
options are just, they open up so many things. And so also the people who build these projects build them so well. You have
Right.
documentation for everything, and it's very common to actually, trace out the section for authentication and security, and how to bring up this database securely, and so on and so forth. But it's really a tragedy of mismatched expectations. Like no one
Right.
is. I mean, you don't really realize that it is very important to go over the documentation for security for this specific product, right? Is it your role? I am just a developer, just quotes. Is it the DevOps role? Is it the SecOps role? Is it someone else down the chain? Is there actually a role for this? Or do I actually need to take this end to end? Is it all me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I bet 8 out of 10 companies you go and ask these questions, everyone will answer differently. Oh, I thought it's that person's role, and is that right? To actually go and say, you know what, this is built to a standard. We've done the risk modeling and all this boring stuff, right, from a security point of view. Um, I mean, no one does this. It's just a
Yeah.
bummer, right? Because it's so much fun to just adopt a new DB and take it to production. We need different approaches for this, right? We need the approach that is still fun, right? And
And
that's
here comes
yeah,
Spectral and the product Spectral Ops. How do you
exactly.
make this fun? How do you maintain this approach but make it accessible
So
to
yeah, so
close the
first
loop?
of all, it needs to be. I mean, through your process of experimenting, let's take this use case, right, of a database, whatever, a new cool database. There is some zen here, right? When you're building, you're in the flow, you're experimenting, right? You're not going to stop, open a book, and go section by section, and go over all these and do threat modeling, and right. There's some zen here. So there's needs to be
Mm-hmm.
something that can automate all that and be as seamless as possible and not interfere, and kind of take away all the risk, all the mistakes that you can make, right? And that's basically is Spectral. So it's just a
Right.
single binary. It's a very lightweight, cool thing that you install on your machine, just like Docker, for example, just like Terraform. The vibe is the same vibe, right? And actually think about a vibe of a tool. That's also important. right? Of a developer tool. What's the vibe? How does it actually look and feel? What's the UX, right? Yeah, it's a terminal thing, right? It's a console app, it's a terminal app, but it has a UX,
Right.
right?
Yeah. And what is the strategy that you're thinking towards? Obviously, the goal being that at the end, this is a part of every developer's cycle of development and daily workflow. What is sort of your strategy as an early stage startup? How are you getting there?
So yeah, so basically, there's like I think you said it. If you want to be a tool that the developer uses, uh, first of all, I think of myself as an engineer first and as a cyber person very much later. Although I have the background, quite a hardcore background, I kind of put this in a very distant place, because if I think attack defense and I go to build a tool for developer, it's not going to speak the same language, right? So in life, first I'm an engineer. I like to help engineers. That's how I see myself. Yeah, there's this component of security which I really like, but I kind of suppress it mostly. Uh, so then, first of all, the tool needs to be honest, and the value needs to be immediate and valuable, right? So if you just throw some port, blah, very cryptic, and it's not immediate, this is not something that is uh, a developer will want to actually fix right now, then it's not useful. Some other tool will
Right.
get that. The open port, some other tool will get that, right? It's very easy to detect open ports. So what we do, for example, again, with a silly example of CockroachDB, we go to the documentation, we open up the configuration, we understand how to bring CockroachDB in a wrong way. And then we kind of look at the developer facing surface area. So what are the flags here? How do I bring it up? How do I configure it to be production ready and so on? And only pick these flags and let you know about them. So, hey, you haven't turned on SSL, right? Very basic. Some products have this embedded in them. Some of these require some front end to handle the SSL, because the SSL encryption is kind of demanding, and no one wants to do this in process and so on. But there is an approach, right? So
Mhm.
if this is a very common mistake, so there's one class of forgetting, not knowing about it at all. I don't know what is SSL. I don't know why is it useful. I know that we're regulated, and why we need this as a must. Maybe it's a very honest uh, unawareness, right? Maybe I build front end and now I'm building a full stack thing, which is a great thing because I feel very empowered. This is the right thing to do. And you know what? I haven't even touched SSL in my life, right? First time.
Right.
Or maybe this is a mismatch of expectations. So you have a load balancer, you have some F5, whatever. This thing usually does SSL termination to take off the load of apps. But this time it doesn't, because someone deploys this some other way, right? And now you don't have SSL. So all these small mistakes are always honest, simple, naive mistakes. And this is
Right.
basically what we want to discover while you're coding, or actually any way you like it. You just run it as a tool. You just run it in your IDE, you run it in your CI. And this is also part of the vibe, right? If you have a tool for developers, are you going to dictate how to run this tool, right? Must you run this in CI? No, this is not how I work as a developer. First, when I
Right.
download something, I want to run it on my machine just to figure out how to use it, right? And then I want to kind of have it in my IDE. Let's test drive this, right? In my IDE. And when I'm completely trusting this tool, I put it in my holy place, in my CI, right? This is how I work as a developer. And mostly, all developers that, kind of have a little sense of paranoism, or, kind of don't allow everything in their toolbox, which is, most developers.
I love it. Now, where do you draw the inspiration? So It's a question that I love asking a lot of entrepreneurs because, to wake up every day and to go and create these products and fight the uphill battle, you obviously need, some reason why you're so excited about what you're doing. Is it for you the fact that you just spent so much time as an engineer yourself and you saw this pain point emerge? Because like you mentioned, this is not just an idea that you had, this is a pain that you've experienced that you want to go solve.
Yeah, I think like every developer, every engineer, I'm naturally lazy in a good way. If there was something already, I would actually use it.
Right.
And the frustration is actually a few years building up of, yeah, this sucks. I mean, someone forgot a flag here, right? How do we fix this? Let's invent some process. Let's bring a pen tester that knows about Elastic, right? Oh, how do we find this person? Is he really an expert in Elastic, right? You're always in this vicious cycle of trying to figure out who's the expert in this technology so that we can
Right.
bring it to production in a great way. And the
Right.
answer is, new technologies have no experts because they're new, right? And
Sure.
today, everything is new. So yeah, this is
100%.
a vicious cycle of trying to figure out like what's the right thing to do, and there's no right answer.
Dotan, if I were to ask anybody who worked with you previously or today, what are a few words that they would use to describe Dotan? What are some things that come to mind?
I don't know. I know, I know myself. I'm not sure what they would say, but I can tell you that something that people find strange is that I kind of self-learn everything, right?
Interesting.
So today I know how to design. I know how to do machine learning. I know how to code, and so many things that I kind of set a target for that it really looks bizarre to people mostly. So this is the first thing that it's a little bit annoying also. Because if there will be a designer, I will be there to actually give feedback, and it's bizarre, right? And if there's
100%.
someone building an AI solution, I will be there to challenge this this feature, right? And it's
I love
kind of
it.
bizarre. So yeah, that is mostly what comes off.
I'll take it. Dotan, thank you very, very much.
Cool.
Best of luck with Spectral. Amazing pain point. I look forward to trying out the solution myself as a coder. And best of luck with the company and stay safe and stay healthy.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye bye.